Hey guys, I'm here with Dennis and his Highlander that he's built. It's a 2020 with a unique engine, Apex engine. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that, because I'm not familiar with the Yamaha Apex engine, and I have seen one other airplane over there with it.
Yeah, Yamaha Apex is out of a Yamaha Apex Snowmobile from model years 2006 through 2018. The Apex is the first one they've done, and right now it's been the most, it seems like the most prolific. Mine is completely stock, 150 horsepower. I'm using all the stock sled electronics and ignition parts, and the oil tank everybody uses and stuff, and just basically a different radiator and air box of my own design. The radiators, I bought a Steve Henry radiator. The engine you'd buy out of a salvage snowmobile. There's a couple guys, Jim Hensel and Travis Hipschman, that specialize in salvage in the snowmobile, and they know exactly what you need. A gauge cluster so you can troubleshoot your electronics just like a car. You don't use it in the plane, but you plug in if you need to troubleshoot something. I've never had to do it, but you have the harness under the dash so you can do that for troubleshooting. Yeah, they'll give you the heater out of the snowmobile, the little extra auxiliary radiator you can use as a heater. It comes with a fan on it, and they know exactly what you need. You buy that, you have the wiring harness made by either Brian Dacus or Ian Bang down in Texas or Arizona, I think, for Brian Dacus turnkey engines. But however you want to go with it, I've chose stock just because I figured keep it as simple as possible. And fantastic engine. When you're cruising, it's like a Rotax 912S or a 914, you know, and it sips fuel. We came out here loaded to the hilt, 33 gallon of gas, 130 pounds of baggage, and two 200 pounders in it. And it was 4.7 the first fuel stop and 4.8 the next.
Now, is this the standard gear here for the Highlander?
My gear is called Just Aircraft's Extreme Landing Gear legs. You have some options here. You can get their smaller legs. The guy that is flying right now has over here. They just attach here, and they're shorter. Or the extreme legs from Just, or taller and little, extra set of, they're extra beefy. And then if you want to go all in and really get the Cadillac gear, you go TK1 shock monster. The guys that make my shocks make a set of gear legs that are even longer, and they set out wider, so you get a little better angle. You get a little less knuckling, stoving when you hit hard. They're more of a cantilever out here. Same shocks, just longer legs. And you'll see them on Steve Henry's plane. And
is this one right here?
This is a Super Stol with it's a really long gear that goes in underneath the plane. Same manufacturer, a little bit different airframe for the suspension, and a different wing. I got a much different wing as well. Yeah, he has built-in slats and everything. This is an extreme rough field airplane here, and this is pretty rough field here in itself. But that's on the really bottom end of it, really hitting stuff. Yeah, I got the 29s. I also have a set of 21s. I actually don't see much speed difference between the 21s and the 29s, so I figure I'd leave the fun ones on.
Now, is there anything special about your wing as opposed, like if I wanted to buy a Highlander versus a Kit Fox, or Super Stol, like what's the difference for someone who is a noob that wants to get into this?
The difference between a Kit Fox and a Highlander is that the Kit Fox has what's called spoiler-ons. They're detached from the wing and they hang down on little longer hinges down here. And they work differential for your roll, and they also work together with a flap lever, so they droop. They'll droop together to use as flaps. I have flaps and ailerons, so they have this continuous full span. Probably goes out almost to their wingtip. It hangs down and just one surface on each side. We have flaps that work independent, and of course you just down or up. It helps lift them up. That's one notch, 2 notches, full flaps there. Okay, inside I kept it basic as I could, airspeed and altimeter, and it's a cheap, lightweight altimeter, but I've used one of these in my former build for 18 years, and it's been reliable, slip skid. With the electronics, I have everything off my master to power it, and these are all breaker switches. And then I separated my ECU, injectors, and coils into 3 separate switches, thinking it might be nice if I need to troubleshoot something, but the more I fly it, the more I think I'm going to put them all in one switch, and maybe put a second switch in parallel to give me redundancy, because if any one of these open, it would shut me down. So I think I'd rather double them up and make sure, and that way you can check each switch. If the motor shuts off when you turn one off, you know you got a bad switch. You know,
sure.
So that's probably going to be changed when I add ADSB. I didn't put any transponder in it. I have one I may put in now, a Garmin transponder. It's a little inconvenient. There's places I want to go that I can't because of the 2020 rule. My instrument power here, I'll just turn no key in it. It can't turn over. But for the engine monitor, I have a Grand Rapids Technology EIS. It's old technology, but it's fantastic. If you go, even if you go EFIS, I got 121.9 hours at this time on it.
Okay.
And this is fantastic because you could feed a single serial output to an EFIS if you want to go to a glass panel. You can have this off to the side and feed your EFIS, and you have all your flight and engine information on one thing. And these guys are as reliable as it gets. I know it's old technology, and I'll never probably go away from this. This is my primary display. I have TAC, vertical speed times 100, my voltage, the battery there, water temperature, that's coolant temperature, oil temperature, and the hottest EGT of the four. It'll always show me the hottest. Garmin radio, GTR 200B. If you're building an airplane, you put that in. It is unbelievably clear. The intercom is fantastic. The range of the transmitter is, you can talk. I talk to people in other states often.
So this is an interesting dash, like just how it's, or the instrument panel, just how it's shaped. It really makes it a lot smaller than some of the other ones. Is that your own design, or is that their design?
This is their panel. Their panel comes straight across and straight across that way. I added Richard Holtz's extreme windshield to this, which is a different shape than the standard windshield you'll see in Highlanders and Super Stoles.
Okay.
And it's got a little lower front and a little wider angle, so you see a little better over the dash. You lower your former and your firewall top with it to the minimum. And I wanted to make sure that this did not ruin that line, that this was below that line, so I gained everything that the extreme windshield offered. And I also left it hollow up here because I have a heater core down under the dash from the out of the snowmobile. It's something parts you get if you get your snowmobile. That's one part you need out of it, the little radiator. It has a fan, and I figured if I ever did defrost action in there, you know, to clear it up, the convection will just take the heat right up to it, to the windshield.
Nice. What made you choose the Highlander over, let's say, the Kit Fox, which is pretty similar, or even the Super Stall?
I kind of became a fan of the engine before I became a fan of just aircraft. Seeing Steve running it, and I had in mind to put it on a different, faster airframe, and I kind of thought that's not such a great idea. And when I pivoted and decided I wanted a bush plane, the Highlander was the obvious choice because of the experience and the motor mount available for it from Steve. It had the most Yamaha experience, and yet you had a footpath to follow, so you weren't reinventing the wheel.
Yeah, exactly. It saves a lot of time.
And I was in a hurry to fly, and I said, let's go. And I actually found a kit that was purchased in 2012 from Just. It's kit number 257, that's the tail number. And a fella 3 hours away from me had it for sale. And the price was right and availability was there, and I jumped on it. And it hadn't been started. He was a multi-time builder, but he just kind of lost the passion to build. And it was my gain, you know, and I consider him a dear friend to this day because he enabled me to live my dream. And thanks, Max. Anyhow.
Now, what does something like this cost on average?
I don't know the current prices of the kits. I can give you a...
Usually, like what I've been finding online is around $100,000.
To build this plane to this level today, you would probably have that in that. I can tell you, buying a used kit, I've saved a good bit over that.
Sure.
A good bit, and doing most of it yourself. You know, like in front of my firewall and everything, every nut, washer, prop, spinner, hose, everything was 12.5. I've got 12.5 for 150 horsepower.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I think you could probably do the same today, still for under 16 or 18. You know, it's something a lot.
Rotex were like, if you buy a new one, aren't they like 20 grand?
Oh yeah, I'm talking Yamaha.
Oh,
I'm talking. If you want to do Yamaha, you can do it for well under 20. You can, if you want to do it easy, Steve will line you up with everything. one-stop shop. You know, he'll send you the hoses and the radiator and the propeller and everything for like $23,000 for this. But if you really want a bargain basement and ask guys like me questions, and if you're handy, you can do it. You can do it for under $15,000.
And it took you how long, start to finish?
I built the plane in just 3 weeks shy of a year.
Wow.
And,
okay, that's awesome.
You know, and it's not a show plane because of that, but it's a nice airplane that you can take out and you know, I don't worry too much when I scratch something.
Now, do all Highlanders have this inspection?
Everybody does something different. This guy here that didn't put any in. A lot of guys have all glass on the side. I even know a guy up north that has clear floorboards. So he actually looks down through his floorboards. He doesn't have carpet in, he has that Lexan down there. And yeah, their visibility out of them are fantastic. If you're welcome to set in it and experience it.
So with experimental, are you allowed to just kind of throw anything you want on this plane?
Pretty much, yeah.
So you kill yourself, man, that's up to you. It's basically kind of the way FAA looks at it.
Yes, yeah, they will. FAA does inspect it, and they check for control continuity and good practices, best practices.
Sure. But if you wanted to throw some Amazon landing lights on there, you can throw Amazon landing lights. You should
mention I bought these landing lights on Amazon.
Oh, really?
But they're not cheapies.
No, Rigid is not a cheap brand.
No, it's not a cheap brand, but they're, my God, are they nice and bright. And they light up the whole airport when I turn them on. And I have them set for landing or wigwag. And it really is a sight to behold at twilight when they're turned on.
Well, why don't you tell me about your tail wheel? Like, what's different about this than maybe, is this the standard one that comes on?
No, it is not. The tail wheel, there's two things going on here. You have a T3 tail wheel suspension from, I forget the name of the company. Super Cubs North or something like that, builds this suspension. My airframe being a 2012 one, it was pre-Super Stol suspension. Okay. So mine came with a leaf spring in place of this, and I've since upgraded to suspension since I got the TK suspension. It also came with bungees, which once you go to TK or Acme Aero, which I have the TKs, you'll never go back to bungees ever.
Yeah.
But and I also added the Jim Pakula Tundra light tail wheel. That's the big boy, and it's a full swivel and it locks. You have a lever in the cockpit, you can lock it straight ahead. So if you think you're going to be landing in a crosswind, it's a little extra security to make sure you don't, it doesn't turn. There's 130 pounds on your tail wheel when you're sitting there empty.
Yeah.
So having that locked forward is a real nice security blanket. Once you plant the plane, it doesn't want to spin. And normally, if you bought a Highlander today, you'd order it with a Super Stol tail wheel. And we should take a look at Steve's right now and show you what you want. If you order your Highlander, definitely pay for that option, because it's even better suspension than this, and it's got a lot more sideways rigidity built into the airframe. So way heavier duty solution. Same now here. This is Stephen Gromac's plane, and it's nicer than mine, I must say, Super Stol. And you can now get this heavy-duty tail wheel built into the Highlander when you order it. And it has a vertical shock that's pivoting up here, and nitrogen charge, just like the TK stuff I have. And he still has the locking tail wheel on it. It's just built a little different. It's built for the round tube, and his locking mechanism comes back from the cockpit lever right here. And it works the same way. The beauty of this is the incredible rigidity you get, because this is triangulated into the frame.
Yeah.
And it'll take way more side load than mine. And mine's good though. I mean, it's fine. But this is the latest and greatest if you want the top of the line.
All right.